Thank you all for meeting me here today.
It's my pleasure.
I was delighted to hear from you, Carl.
We've come upon an issue in the U.S. that must be addressed. I was reading a page from the National Public Radio and discovered a great article addressing pharmaceutical companies. Here's a copy for each of you. The author, Alison Kojak, dives into a serious issue that is the price of insulin. She explains that there are many people involved in the process of getting drugs from the company to the patients, each taking a cut of profit for themselves. The raised prices of insulin are insulting to the patients that need it.
Can you explain a bit more on that, Carl? What is insulin's use again?
Sure thing. Insulin is an important natural hormone that allows the body to process sugar. The lack of natural insulin or an overproduction of it causes a disease called diabetes. The insulin talked about in the article is a man-made hormone that is injected into a diabetic patient.
Wow, Carl, you sure do know a whole lot about diabetes.
With that being said, the article states that even the government is focused on the high prices of drugs. These big pharma companies are filled with greed and are furthering the divide between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. This is just one step closer to the U.S. becoming a communist society. These large companies will crumble as the masses will rise up in revolt.
Are you referring to class conflict, where the struggle is between those with resources and those without?
Exactly. The CEOs and executives of these companies are making a huge profit because of their resources, but those with diabetes are without funds and, more importantly, without insulin.
I agree in part with you, Carl. I believe that material wealth leads to greed and envy, which can threaten the equilibrium at which society stands. However, it is just a cog out of place in the big machine that is society. If this issue is fixed, the society as a whole will flourish. The way we can fix it is by creating laws and limitations for these pharmaceutical companies.
Is it solely a cog out of place? This seems to be a lengthy issue that is broadening rapidly. Insulin has been used for over 100 years, but the price has grown exponentially. According to the House of Representatives, the price has increased tenfold in the past 20 years.
Are all of these pharmaceutical companies raising their prices?
Most, but not all. Cigna's Express Scripts is working on limiting their drugs' cost to consumers. They have not catapulted their list prices for pharmaceuticals.
You're addressing this as an economist, Carl, but you must look at this from a sociological perspective.
That's because I am an economist.
That's to be determined.
In addition to the pain their wallet is feeling, these patients are actually in physical and emotional pain. They are without the things they need to live a full life. People like Gail DeVore have to dilute their drugs just because they're too expensive and her insurance will not cover it. This leads to a risk of amputations and blindness, among other complications. These people have essentially been labeled as not worthy of life by these pharmaceutical companies. Their self-image is degraded with every price increase.
Not to mention the alienation one feels. These diabetic people are deviants of social society's health norms.
You must remember, though, that a diabetic in an upper class status would not have any issues with this cost. Like Gail DeVore says in the article, her insurance helps with much of the basic costs for insulin. If she didn't have the insurance, she might not be able to pay for the basic insulin she needs, let alone the specific insulin she needs just once in a while. It's a classic example of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer.
So what have we decided about Kojak's article?
I think we're all generally on the same page about the issue. Insulin should be easily accessible for the ones who lack financial resources to get it.
Yes, this will lessen the stigma that diabetes could be a death sentence.
This decrease of prices is just the elbow grease the cog needs.
Yes,